So, today I got to do some schoolwork, and I figured that you guys might want to see the kind of stuff that I'm doing. Maybe that kind of stuff might interest you, considering this is an animal related channel. So, I'm going to jump into it and start doing something that is due today. It is writing. I have to write a 500-page, I wouldn't say essay, but just like a discussion thing that I gotta write up, and it shouldn't be too terrible. It should be, I don't know. I'm gonna enjoy it. Oh yeah, good luck. I mean, it's not really that bad, to be quite honest with you. To be quite honest with you, this is my last week of this class, and I've been doing pretty good on it. I'll probably get a high B in this class. I might be able to squeeze out an A, but the way that this grading is for this class is a bit weird. So I'm in school right now for wildlife conservation, and right now, I mean, this class is like an evolutionary biology class. More so talking about like the importance of diversity in wildlife, and like you know how little things in the environment can change very vast swaths of the environment, and taking out one animal can be a big impact. And the different types of animals and how they have an impact on the environment and stuff like that. So with this, what my assignment is right here is biodiversity has ecological, economic, and social value, but it is under peril. In this discussion, you will thoroughly explore the diversity of life, Esri's story map to learn the global patterns and threats. After exploring, you will present your opinion as a concerned citizen. How can you do this? One of the simplest ways to share your ideas and start making a difference is to express yourself to elected officials. So it is writing a 500-word letter to Congress to argue for the protection of biodiversity. Your letter must introduce yourself and provide personal background on the experience that have led you to care about biodiversity. Reflect on and cite at least one previous assignment from this course that shaped your perspective on biodiversity. Briefly describe global patterns in biodiversity, citing specific major hotspots in both marine and terrestrial ecosystems that were displayed in the story map. Synthesize the modern threats to biodiversity and that were described in the story map, and state which threat you are personally most concerned about. Provide reasoning and evidence. Argue the value of diversity. Explain why biodiversity changes are detrimental to human interests. And your letter should be typed and contain both a salutation and sign off. You can refer to the page for examples in the format. Oh, that's cool. I had a question. Do you really need crocodiles? Because I've been having a hard time to understand their significance in the ecosystem. Well, to answer that is the easiest way to answer that is look at what they are doing in their environment, and what they feed on, and like also what part of the world it is. So it just depends on what part of the world. In a lot of places, there are animals that would take over that niche. If you have an animal in an ecosystem, okay, if you have any animal in an ecosystem, there is a certain amount of other animals that live there as well. And if the animal wasn't needed or didn't have all the things it needed to survive, that species would go extinct. Crocodilians have been around for so long because of the things that they do, the way they live their life. There are not many animals that can even come close. There we go. That can even come close to impacting like the water biome the way they can. They eat bigger animals, tend to. They eat things like turtles, fish. It just depends on what species it is. They don't need much when it comes to surviving. Like they can eat one meal, once a month, once they reach a certain size. If they weren't, so biome is like the environment. So like the environment in which they live. So like if you went down to the Amazon, it would be the forest biome. The Amazon River would be the river biome. It's like different areas in that ecosystem, and they inhabit the water. Now you might have jaguars on land, and sometimes jaguars can venture into the water, but the caimans that live in the Amazon, they will eat, things that venture near the water that the other animals don't get to, and like, or they'll eat the turtles or the fish. There are everything's competing for the same sort of resources depending on which niche they're in. So it gives you kind of an idea. And so if you take them out, that means that something that was eaten by them will either overpopulate because it can survive in that area and it doesn't have to worry about that predator anymore, or something else will take over. Yeah, it all fits into the grand scheme of things exactly. So this one I have to look at this map. Confirm cookies, whatever. Celebrating conserving our planet's abundant flora and fauna. So, okay, well, this is one thing that might answer your question too. This is the fourth chapter of Living in the Age of Humans, a series of stories examining the planet-wide impact of our species. If this is new to you, read the introductory story to learn more about the series, or browse blah 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 blah. What made you get into this specifically? I saw the destruction happening with the habitat in Florida, and I wanted to do something about it. And I talk on here a lot about animals, and I figured if I actually wanted to have an impact, that I should probably, people will take me more seriously if I actually have a degree in what it is that I like to talk about, rather than just some random guy on the internet spewing nonsense. See, biomes, the fine-grained patterns of ecosystem aggregates into larger communities called biomes. Biomes arise from a shared physical environment and climate. Each can extend across multiple continents. 5 biomes are highlighted here. So you got like grasslands, tropical rainforests, wetlands, deserts, coral reefs. Okay. All right, so reflect and cite at least one previous assignment. Okay, briefly synthesize. Here we go. Briefly describe global patterns in biodiversity, citing specific major hotspots in both marine and terrestrial ecosystems that were displayed in the story map. What is your theory? So, I guess I have to read over all of this. All right. Our planet's land and waters support a rich tapestry of ecosystems, each driven by a variety of factors, including temperature, rainfall, winds, soils, and geology. Within each ecosystem, a host of microorganisms, plants, and animals compete and cooperate in an ever-shifting web of life. An ecosystem can comprise an entire landscape or a single desert spring. Okay, well, what is your theory? Earth's land areas are resplendent. Resplendent, I don't know that word. Resplendent with an intricate mosaic representing thousands of ecosystems, each with its own web of interdependencies. To explore an interactive version of this ecosystem map, visit the atlas that accompanies this story. Biomes. The fine-grained pattern of ecosystem aggregates into larger communities called biomes. Biomes arise from a shared physical environment and climate. Each can extend across multiple continents. 5 biomes are highlighted here. Grasslands, the planet's most extensive terrestrial biome. Grasslands across central Eurasia, Australia, Africa, and the Americas. They often support large herds of grazing animals. Grasslands are one of the most widespread biomes on Earth, occurring naturally on every continent except Antarctica and occupying over a third of the planet's surface. This map displays global grasslands, savannas, and shrublands. A vast band of temperate grasslands, the Eurasian steppe, stretches from Eastern Europe across most of the breadth of Asia. Okay. It's on orcas. They are apex predators of the sea. They have no problem devouring and destroying anything in there. For some time, humans have become aware that they are exclusively do not attack us in the wild. Okay. The theory is that they know how intelligent we are and are aware of our capabilities. Possibly. I don't think that's a bad theory. Tropical rainforest, the rich. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, they probably are smarter than we give them credit for. The richest, most diverse of Earth's biomes, rainforests, are vital to the health of the planet. A single hectare of Amazon rainforest might harbor 40 to 100 species of tree, along with countless other plants and animals. Wetlands, places where water, either salty or fresh, mixes intimately with land, are typically abundant with life and have benefits that extend far beyond their margins. They're nurseries for fish, birds, and many other plants and animals. They reduce the impacts of floods and storm surges, and they store carbon that otherwise would hasten global warming. Oof. Out of the waters that, what do you think they're thinking when they see a vessel floating but not submerging yet, carrying multiple people? They must be dumbfounded with that intelligence. Well, possibly. It's a theory that's been bothering. I mean, that could definitely be a possibility. Realms of scarce rainfall and extreme temperatures, desert host plants and animals that are adapted to extreme conditions. I mean, that makes sense. Possibly. I mean, maybe they know that we're not the type of food that they're wanting, so they just don't mess with us. Billions of tiny coral polyps, okay, coral reefs. How diverse is life on Earth? More than 1.2 million species have been identified and described by scientists. Okay. Predicted number of species, 8.7 million. An estimated 86% of the terrestrial species and 91% of marine species have yet to be described by science. Dang. How is biodiversity distributed? Nature's bounty is splashed very unevenly across the planet. Huge areas that might be considered wild, excuse me. Hi, is it Jizzle? Nice. Wild, for instance, the Sahara, are relatively devoid of biodiversity. Conversely, high diverse environments are often small in area. Coral reefs, for example, cover only a tiny percentage of the ocean's area, yet they support the bulk of its biodiversity. It's no great secret that plants and animals species are not distributed evenly across the globe. Some areas are much more biologically diverse than others. This map shows the relative richness or density of terrestrial species. Yeah, so the Amazon is just chock full of species. Marine fish richness. Knowledge of ocean diversity is incomplete, as is much of our understanding of natural systems. Richness of fish is a proxy here for overall diversity. Dang. Yeah, you would think that the poles wouldn't have as much. Conservation biologists have delineated land and ocean areas that are exceptionally diverse. These designations help determine priorities for protection and call attention to regions that might otherwise be neglected. Why does this matter? Our existence is entirely dependent on nature. Threats to biodiversity. The past half century have brought unprecedented changes to our planet. And ever increasing human population and rapid economic growth have put enormous pressure on natural systems. Below, the lead threats to the rich diversity of life on Earth: habitat loss and fragmentation, overexploitation, climate change, pollution, invasive species, population and commerce, protecting biodiversity. A vital step towards maintaining biodiversity is setting aside of lands and waters to protect natural habitats, but a patchwork of isolated preserves may fail to fully safeguard ecosystems and migration corridors. Successful protection is unlikely without adequate enforcement, community support, and an understanding that all lands and waters need to be managed with a regard for nature. The World Database on Protected Area maps over 260,000 officially protected areas scattered across the world, totaling roughly 9.5% of the Earth's surface. Altogether, terrestrial and marine protected areas occupy more space than the entire landmass of North and South America. Protection takes many forms. We'll look at a few examples. As early as 1660s, the practice of forestry responsibly harvested timber from wooded areas was being utilized in England, in part inspired by the book by John Evelyn. Evelyn warned of deforestation from the over timbering and called for actively replenishing deforested lands. The world's first de facto protected area was established near Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia in the 1780s, when local representatives of the Chinese Qing dynasty declared the area around the mountain Bogd Khan a protected site. Bogd Khan Ul has been a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve since 1996. Yellowstone National Park, mostly in Wyoming, is widely recognized as the world's first officially designated national park. The U.S. Congress set aside this geyser-studded mountain basin for the benefit and enjoyment of the people in 1872. In the modern era, it has been important in wildlife conservation efforts. Widespread in Africa, game reserves protect ecosystems and help animal populations flourish. Kruger National Park was South Africa's first and, at nearly 20,000 square kilometers, is one of the continent's largest reserves. Poaching of wildlife has been a major problem in this and other African protected lands. Use of surveillance technology and arrested poachers helped reduce poaching in Kruger by more than 20% between 2018 and 2019. Marine conservation lagged behind terrestrial conservation for much of the 20th century, but in recent decades, a more concentrated effort has been made to protect water environments too. The Republic of Kiribati administers the Phoenix Islands Protected Area, which was established in 2008 and since received a UNESCO World Heritage designation. At 400,000 square kilometers, Paipa is nearly as large as California and over 500 times bigger than the nation's total combined land area. The limits of protection. And protecting lands and waters is vitally important, but doing so by no means guarantees that worldwide biodiversity will be maintained. First, not all protected areas are created equal. Some preserves permit human activities such as hunting and resource extraction. Laws and regulations governing protected areas vary widely, and enforcement is often lax. Perhaps more importantly, Most experts agree that current conservation efforts are not nearly enough to sustain the long term health of the planet. Distinguished biologist E.O. Wilson, for example, advocates for half Earth, which posits that 50% of the Earth's surface should be set aside to ensure that the bulk of the plant and animal species maintain healthy populations and that the natural biodiversity on which humans depend is ensured. That seems like a lot, but can you do live lightly? Okay, iNaturalist, I have that. eBird for okay. Interesting. All right. So, introduce yourself and provide personal background on the experiences that have led you to care about biodiversity. Reflect and cite at least one previous assignment from this course. Briefly describe global patterns in biodiversity, citing specific major hotspots in both marine and terrestrial ecosystems that were displayed. Okay. Synthesize the modern threats to biodiversity that were described in the story map and state whether which threat you are personally most concerned about. Provide reasoning and evidence. Have it be 500 words. All right. Global. Okay, so this is the actual one I have to. Accurately describes global patterns in both marine and terrestrial biodiversity. Synthesize major threats to. Synthesizes major threats to diversity as described by the provided story map, state most concerning threats and provides reasoning, argues for the value of diversity, explain why biodiversity changes are detrimental to human interests, uses professional letter formatting, and then responses. Okay. All right. I have lady. Okay. So now comes the fun part. All right. Hello. Well, do I have to write hello, congressperson? Your letter should be typed and contain both salutation and sign off. Okay. Okay. Business letter format. I read some news about a whale alphabet earlier, not sure how accurate it is. Yeah, I made a video about it yesterday, actually. Very interesting stuff. All right. Greetings, opening paragraph. Closing paragraph. Okay. Let's see. My name, oh my god, is Fraser, and I have been interested in conservation in general for as long as I can remember. Let's see, can I do dictate? Hello, my name is Dean Fraser. Okay, cool. All right, let me do it this way. Hello, my name is Dean Fraser, and I have been interested in conservation for as long as I can remember. I grew up in Central Florida and over time have watched the destruction and development of the land to such a crazy rate that it didn't really make sense to me how the wildlife could survive all of it. Obviously, because I'm doing it this way, I have to go through later and, like, change everything up. When I started talking about animals more, especially animals that I had seen growing up, and the rates in which animals were getting hit by cars, habitat fragmentation, the destruction of the Everglades, I'm trying to think of the word, and the Lake Okeechobee runoff, I began to think on, and the Lake Okeechobee runoff, oh, it's not working now, and Lake Okeechobee runoff, I began to realize that it was a bigger problem than was being let on. And although I had heard about global warming, climate change, and things that I felt like I really had no way of controlling myself, I began to realize that there were things that I could actually do to help solve my local issues. Okay. Reflect and cite at least one previous assignment, of course, that shaped your perspective on biodiversity. Let's see, what assignment should I go over? Kill rails, reproduction, diversity, coyote population, interactions with your neighbor. Okay. That works. Reflect and cite at least one previous assignment from this course that shaped your perspective on biodiversity. In a current class that I am taking, we had to look at our local environments. Erase last sentence. We had to look at our local ecosystems and talk about some of the biodiversity in them and how they interacted with each other. And how if you took only one of those animals out of the equation, the entire ecosystem could change, affecting all of the animals around. And this was just in one particular section of my neighborhood. Erase last sentence. And this was just in my backyard. If you look outwards at the entire ecosystem, you can begin to see how just a few changes could completely destroy the fabric of the environment. And the more I look into it, the more I see that's exactly what's happening. Okay. Let's see. Briefly describe global patterns of biodiversity, citing specific major hotspots in both marine and terrestrial ecosystems that were displayed on. Okay. Let's see. Rainforests and let's see, wetlands. Okay, because I have more experience with wetlands, I'm going to talk more about that. And coral reefs. Really describe global patterns in biodiversity, major specific hotspots in both marine and terrestrial ecosystems that were displayed. Okay. Wetlands and coral reefs are two types of biomes that we have here in Florida that are under threat right now. They both not only have huge amounts of biodiversity, but wetlands in particular are carbon sinks, which through their natural processes store carbon that would otherwise potentially be in the atmosphere. Synthesize the modern threats to biodiversity that were described in the story map and state which threat you are potentially most or personally more concerned about. Provide reasoning and evidence. I am personally very concerned about the wetlands, especially the Everglades in South Florida, by not only the cutoff of water through them, it's a lot more difficult to talk and do this than because you only want to say the right thing rather than just rambling. The cut of water through them, and oh my god, the habitat fragmentation. That we go. But the development that causes habitat fragmentation. This leads to more roads and animals needing to cross these roads and getting hit by cars, as well as just not having as much habitat left for them to actually live in. All right. Argue the value of diversity. Explain why biodiversity changes are detrimental to human interests. Argue the value of biodiversity. Biodiversity is an important part of life on this planet. Each organism relies on other organisms in its environment to survive. If you take one out, the potential For the destruction of that habitat, take something as simple as a bee. Sure, there are other animals that pollinate flowers, but bees around the world now. No, that's not a good example. Okay, I'll use the Florida panther. Take the Florida panther. It's at the top of the ecosystem. Nope. It's at the top of the food chain. It feeds on larger animals, specifically deer, raccoons, possums, and now, with the invasive species such as wild hogs, Burmese pythons, they have a potential impact on reducing their numbers. But if you completely took them out of the environment, there would be a major predator that would predate on all of these animals and keep their populations in check gone. And there would possibly be unmitigated growth of these animals. Okay, that might be something. Let me see. Argue for the value of diversity. Explain why biodiversity is detrimental to human interests. Wild hogs are catastrophic to crops and farmland. And the battle to delete last sentence. And the battle to control their population would be a lot easier if you had native predators such as the panther to keep these populations in check. Your letter should be okay. No, I think that's about it. And then I got to thank you for your time and consideration. Okay. That's not how you spell my name. Loser. Why do they never get it right? Okay. Now I gotta go through and do the fun stuff of editing this. as long as I can remember. I grew up in Central Florida. And over time, have watched the destruction and development of the land. Just such a crazy rate. Let's see. And it didn't really make sense to me. How could the wildlife survive all that? When I started talking about animals more consistently, especially animals that I had seen growing up, and the rates in which these animals were getting hit by. And the rates in which these, let's see, animals were getting hit by cars, habitat fragmentation, the destruction of the Everglades, and Lake Okeechobee runoff, I began to realize that it was a bigger problem than was being led on. Bigger problem than most people are aware of. Okay. And although I had heard about climate change and things that I felt climate change and things that I felt like I really had no way of controlling myself, I began to realize that there were things I could actually do and help solve my local issues. I realized that there were things that I could actually do to help solve my local issues. Okay. In a current class that I am taking, we had, okay, let's see. We had to look at our local ecosystems and talk about some of the biodiversity in them and how they interacted with each other. And how if you took only one of those animals out of the equation, the entire ecosystem could change, affecting all of the animals around. All the animals around. And this was just in my backyard. If you look outwards at the entire ecosystem, you can begin to see how just a few changes could completely destroy the fabric of the environment. Destroy the fabric of the environment. And the more I look into it, the more I investigate it, the more I see that's exactly what's happening. Wetlands and coral reefs are let's see, are two types of biomes that we have here in Florida that are under threat right now. Wait, have here in Florida that are under threat right now. They both not only have large amounts of biodiversity, but wetlands in particular are carbon sinks, which through their natural processes store carbon and, wait, open suggestion, wetlands. But wetlands are carbon sinks, which through their natural processes store carbon that would otherwise potentially be in the atmosphere. I'm personally very concerned about the wetlands, especially the Everglades in South Florida. But not only the cut off of the water through them, but the development that causes habitat fragmentation. This leads to more roads and animals needing to cross these roads. Many of which get hit by cars. As much as 350 million vertebrates in the United States annually. I know that's true, but I have to go and get a source for that in a minute. I am personally very concerned about the wetlands, especially the Everglades in South Florida. Not only the cutoff of water through them, but the development that causes habitat fragmentation. This leads to more roads and animals needing to cross these roads, many of which get hit by cars, okay, as well as not having as much habitat left for them to actually live in. Biodiversity Biodiversity is an important part of life on this planet. Each organism relies on other organisms in its environment to survive. Take the Florida panther. It's not the... It's a tertiary consumer on top of the food chain. It feeds on larger animals, specifically deer. Deer, raccoons, possums. And now with the invasive species, and now with the invasive species such as, let's see, I'm going to have to do and possums. There we go. Don't want to run on that sentence too long. And now with the invasive species such as feral hogs and Burmese pythons, they have a did I spell it specifically wrong? Food chain. Okay. Feral hogs and Burmese pythons, they have a potential impact on reducing their numbers. But if you completely took them out of the environment, there would be a major predator that would predate on all of these animals and keep their populations in check. Dang it. Come on. Gone. Okay, on these animals to keep the population kept gone, and there would be possibly, and there would be more unmitigated growth of these animals. Wild hogs are catastrophic to crops and farmland. We should clone dinosaurs to go eat the snakes, kind of like an old lady who ate the frog and eat the frog. Why? Snakes are awesome. What are you talking about? We want snakes. They're good. Wild hogs are catastrophic to crops and farmland. And the battle to control their population would be a lot easier if you had native predators such as the panther to keep these populations in check. Okay, 531 words, a little bit more. That I needed, but that works. Okay. Now I need they are a tertiary consumer. Okay. Let's see. So now I want let's see. I'm grabbing real quick. Many animals are killed on roads in the USA year. There we go. Okay, Scientific America, that works. That's the one I was looking for. Let's see. I need to cite this because I've read this before. 2022. Let's see. 2022. Roadkill literally drives some species to extinction. To cite things is a pain in the butt, but it's stuff that you gotta do in order to be credible. Okay. Just that annually. Paste that. Cited. Okay. Now I have to go through and make this all APA style. All right. Do I have to stretch this out a little bit to get the rest? Yes, I do. Okay. B12 Times New Roman. Double spaced. 0 point. Double. Bam. Okay, okay, okay. Got that. It's got to be all in black. This guy would be Shilthusen. Shilthusen. I don't want it to be capitals like that. That would be S C H I L T H I L T H U I Z E N U I Z E N Shilthusen M. Okay. Now I can bring that back down to size. Is this for your class? Hope these are going well. Yes, it is for school, and they are going well. Thank you for asking. I mean, I haven't gotten anything under a high B in these classes, so there's that at least. But I have to do this a very particular way. Not bold. You know, because they're very particular on... Stop. They're very particular on the way things have to be written, which can be kind of a pain in the ass, but C's get degrees is what they always say. Yeah, C's do get degrees, but I don't want to get C's. I want to get as good of a grade as I possibly can. Come on, there we go. All right. And then that has to be italicized. Of course. Why does it do that shite? There we go. Okay. So that is... I gotta bring that down here, though. and make this a reference page. Let's see. References. And bold that. Okay, just to make sure, introduce yourself and provide personal background. Blah, blah. You should type and contain both salutation and sign off. What was the salutation part? Dear, blah, blah, blah. Okay, maybe I should do things a little different right here then. Let's see. Dear Congress person. There we go. So it just said I had to write it, and then I have to bring it down. Okay. Dear Congressperson. Do I have to... Sincerely, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Sincerely, Dean. Okay. I think that works. Let me just double check before I turn that in. Introduce yourself, background, blah, blah, reflect and cite at least one previous assignment from a course. Briefly describe global patterns in biodiversity, citing major hotspots in both marine and synthesize the modern threats to diversity. Argue for the value of diversity. Okay. Rubric. Synthesize major threats, state most concerning threats and provides reasoning. Argues for the value of diversity, explaining your diversity changes detrimental to human interests. Use professional format, including a salutation, introduction, yourself, and sign off. Okay, I think that what I just did was good enough for that. Copy. All right, let's see how well this goes. Paste. Dear Congressperson, let's see. Okay, got that. Am I the only one? Okay, no, I'm not the only one. That's fine. Cool. That's done. Let's see, maybe name is Dean Fraser. Biodiversity is my passion. Could be. Let's see. I currently have an 87 in this class. So I can't complain too much. All right. Plea for biodiversity. That sounds good. And I think the rest of my stuff is like big major assignments. Assignment, species diversity and biogeography. And then okay. That's fine. Done with that. Done with class. Let's see what news is out there right now. Animal related news. I might do a herping trip tonight. go look for some snakes while on live. How does that sound? Would you guys enjoy that? Let's see. Animal news. Dragged by animal control in Arizona. Not good. Okay. The Guardian. Let's see what this says. These plucky moorhens have become local celebrities. Don't care. Let's see. Ooh. All right. Snake Catchers Festival in Italy. In pictures. No. Zebra on the run, Washington State for 6 days of that. I'm happy we're not killing them anymore. Ireland's last basking shark hunter on the return of the giants. There was a basking shark hunter? Always seem like snakes pee on your head. They do. They do a lot. And it smells fantastic. All right. I'm happy we're not killing them anymore. Ireland's last basking shark hunter on the return of the giants. For 30 years, Brian McNeil hunted the world's second biggest fish from small boats off the wild west coast of Ireland. Now the species have made a recovery so rapid it has astounded scientists. Oh, geez, why would you catch them? The ambush was simple. A spotter on a hill would scan the sea, and when he saw big black fins approach, he would shout down to the boatmen. They would ready their nets and quickly row to the kill zone. When a shark got tangled in the mesh, Brian McNeil would wait a minute or two while it struggled, steadying himself and raised his harpoon. This was the crucial moment. The creature would be diving and thrashing, desperate to escape. If the blade hit the gills, blood would spurt, clouding the water. The trick was to hit a small spot between the vertebrae. It was very hard to get him exactly in the vertebrae, McNeil recalls. He'd be spinning and diving all the time. If you happened to get the spear in that inch and a half, that was him. His eyes would roll back in his head and he wouldn't move again. And so another basking shark would die off of Achill, a county Mayo Island on Ireland's Atlantic coast that was a gathering spot, and then a graveyard for a mysterious majestic species. The slaughter in Keem Bay began in the 1950s when islanders discovered there was money in the livers and fins of plankton-eating visitors, which arrived in spring and left in summer. Crews in currachs, traditional wooden boats, greeted with nets and harpoons. Some seasons, more than 1,500 carcasses littered the island's beach and jetties. Over the years, the visitors became fewer and catch dwindled to a few hundred. Then a few dozen, and then by the 1980s, just a handful every season. In 1984, only 5 were caught, after which hunting was abandoned. McNeil was part of the crew that caught the last shark. After that, sightings became very rare. Whatever sharks were left, they seemed to forsake Achill. The sharks disappeared, said McNeil. Now age 76, he is one of the last living connections to the hunting era and a witness to the unexpected coda. The sharks are back. Sightings of Keterhynus maximus, the world's second biggest fish after the whale shark, has proliferated in Achill and other parts of the coastline of Ireland and Britain in recent years. The phenomenon has intrigued and delighted researchers, given that the species is classified internationally as endangered and facing high risk of extinction, according to the Irish government. It's astounding, said Alex McInturff, coordinator for the Irish Basking Shark Group, an international team of scientists. While sightings in New Zealand and northwest U.S. have declined, they have surged in Ireland and Scotland. They are one of only a few locations where you see basking sharks regularly in large numbers, she says. The crazy part is that the fishery in Ireland used to be the biggest in the world, yet Ireland seems to be a place where they have recovered the most. You would have expected the opposite. Despite their size, up to 10 meters long, the sharks are hard to count and track says McInturf of postdoctoral fellowship of Oregon State University, Big Fish Lab, and a visiting researcher at Queen's University Belfast. In some seasons, dozens are spotted. In other years, it's hundreds, she says. We don't know what's driving these variations. We're trying to figure that out. One theory concerns connectivity between Irish and Scottish waters. Sharks have been filmed circling each other in tight formations, prompting speculations of courtship rituals. In 2022, Ireland extended legal protection by making it an offense to hunt, injure, or willfully interfere with basking sharks' breeding or resting places. A move long sought by campaigners, the UK has similar legislation. McNeil blames the visitors' long absence on offshore salmon trawlers and inadvertently snagging the sharks in drift nets, a practice that was made illegal in 2007. Whatever has brought the creatures back, McNeil shares the delight of islanders and tourists who flock to beaches to savor the spectacle. I'm happy they've made a comeback, he says. He does not, however, regret hunting them. Really? Well, I didn't know that hunting them was a thing, to be quite honest with you. Originally from, okay. Huh. Well, I'll tell you this much, guys, for those who are still watching. I'll probably do some herping tonight, and I'll go live then. I'm going to get off here right now and get some stuff ready for that, because I'll be leaving in a few hours. But make sure to, if you have Discord, go check out the Discord. Up in that top corner there is that. I will also, I mean, you can go to any of the videos and see where the Discord is. But yeah, go check out the Discord, and I look forward to seeing you guys tonight if you guys want to be a part of that. So thank you guys for watching, those who have, and